I remember the exact moment my hand froze midair, the porcelain cup inches from my lips, steam curling like a warning I almost ignored. Don't drink it. Trust me. The words didn't come from someone important. Not from family. Not from anyone I was supposed to listen to. They came from the maid, spoken so softly I almost thought I imagined them. And yet in that single second, something inside me shifted. I wish I could say I listened immediately. I didn't. My name is Farzana, and until that day, I believed I understood the people in my home. I believed I knew love, loyalty, and the quiet bonds that hold a family together. Especially her. My daughter-in-law, Aisha. When my son married her 3 years ago, I thought life had given me a second daughter. She wasn't loud or overly affectionate, but she was attentive in ways that felt genuine. She remembered how I liked my tea, light, with just a hint of cardamom. She noticed when my joints ached before I said a word. She even started joining me in the mornings, sitting across from me in the veranda, sipping tea while the city slowly woke up around us. There was comfort in her presence, a quiet kind. The kind that makes you let your guard down without realizing it. Ami, you've done enough for everyone, she used to say, her voice soft but firm. It's time someone takes care of you. And I believed her. Maybe that was my first mistake. The morning of the meeting started like any other, but with a strange weight. I couldn't explain. We had an important family discussion scheduled that afternoon. My son had insisted on it. He said it was about future planning, his words vague but unusually serious. He didn't elaborate, and when I pressed, he only smiled in that distracted way of his. Just trust me, Ami, he said. Trust. It's funny how easily that word is given, and how quietly it can be taken away. Aisha seemed especially attentive that day, more than usual. She insisted I rest in the morning. She canceled my plans to visit a neighbor. She even chose my outfit herself, a soft beige shawl I hadn't worn in years. You should look your best today, she said, adjusting it gently on my shoulders. I smiled, touched by the gesture, but looking back now, there was something else in her eyes. Something I didn't recognize then. Something I should have questioned. Around noon, she brought me the tea. Herbal, she said, placing the cup carefully in front of me. It will help you stay calm during the meeting. I laughed lightly. Do I seem nervous to you? She didn't laugh back. It's just better this way, she replied, her tone unusually flat. That was the second moment I should have paused. But I didn't. Because this was Aisha, the woman who had cared for me, respected me, stood by me in ways even my own relatives hadn't. Why would I doubt her? The house felt different that afternoon. Too quiet. Even the walls seemed to listen. I noticed the maid, Syra, hovering near the hallway more than usual. She was a quiet girl, barely speaking unless spoken to, always keeping her eyes lowered. She had been with us for over a year, and though we were never close, she was reliable, invisible almost, until that day. As I lifted the cup, bringing it closer to my lips, I saw her reflection in the glass cabinet across the room. She was staring at me, not in the casual, distracted way of someone passing by, but intensely, urgently. Our eyes met through the reflection. And then, almost imperceptibly, she shook her head. No. I frowned slightly, unsure if I had understood correctly. That's when she moved closer, her footsteps so soft they barely made a sound. She passed behind me, pretending to adjust the curtains. And then, barely above a whisper, Don't drink it. Trust me. My fingers tightened around the cup. For a moment, everything else faded. The ticking clock, the distant hum of traffic, even my own breathing. Just those words. Don't drink it. 100 thoughts rushed through my mind all at once. Was this some kind of misunderstanding? Had Sarah made a mistake? Or was she warning me? And if she was, why? I glanced toward Aisha, who stood near the doorway watching me, smiling. But it wasn't the warm, familiar smile I knew. It was controlled, measured, like she was waiting. Is something wrong, Ami? She asked, her voice calm. Too calm. I forced a small smile, lowering the cup slightly. No, nothing. But my heart had started to race. I looked back at Syra. She had already stepped away, her head lowered again as if nothing had happened. As if she hadn't just said something that could shatter everything I believed about my home, about my family, about her. I tried to reason with myself. This was ridiculous. A maid whispering something vague didn't mean anything. People imagine things. They misunderstand. They overreact. And Aisha, she had given me no reason to doubt her, not once. Not in 3 years. But then again, trust isn't tested when everything feels right. It's tested in moments like this. Quiet moments. Uncertain ones. Moments where something feels just slightly off. Drink it before it gets cold, Aisha said gently. There it was again. That tone. Soft but insistent. I noticed her hands were clasped tightly in front of her. A small detail, but unusual for her. She was always composed, always relaxed. Not like this. Not tense. I lifted the cup again. Slower this time. The steam brushed against my face, carrying a faint, unfamiliar scent. Not unpleasant, but different from the herbal blends she usually made. My mind replayed Syra's words. Don't drink it. Trust me. Trust. Who was I supposed to trust? The woman who had been part of my family for years? Or the girl who barely spoke, who lived quietly in the corners of our home? It didn't make sense. None of it did. And yet, my instincts, the ones I had learned to ignore over time, were screaming at me now. I looked at Aisha one last time. Her eyes didn't leave me. Waiting, watching, almost expecting. That's when I realized something that made my chest tighten. She wasn't just offering me tea. She was waiting for me to drink it. My hand trembled slightly as I brought the cup closer. Closer, closer. And just as the rim touched my lips, I stopped. Because in that exact second, I noticed something I hadn't before. Aisha's smile faded, just for a moment. Just long enough for me to see what was underneath. Not warmth, not care, but something far colder. Something that didn't belong in the eyes of someone who once called me Ami. And suddenly, Syra's whisper didn't feel like a mistake anymore. It felt like a warning. I slowly lowered the cup. Aisha, I said quietly, my voice steadier than I felt. What exactly is in this tea? For the first time since she entered the room, she hesitated. And that was the moment I knew something was very, very wrong. She took a step toward me. Why would you ask that? She replied, her tone still calm, but her eyes no longer hiding it. That same coldness, that same tension, that same expectation. Behind her, I saw Sarah again, standing still, watching, waiting. And as the silence stretched between us, thick and suffocating, I realized the meeting we were about to have wasn't just about future planning. It was about something else entirely. Something I hadn't been told. Something I was never supposed to question. My fingers tightened around the cup again, this time not out of habit, but out of fear. Because whatever was in that tea, and whatever was about to happen in that meeting, I had a feeling they were connected. And I was standing right at the center of it, unprepared, unaware, and possibly already too late. The silence after my question didn't feel normal. It felt heavy, like the air itself was waiting for something to break. Aisha, I repeated more firmly this time, what exactly is in this tea? She didn't answer immediately. That alone was enough to confirm what my instincts had already begun to accept. Because Aisha, my Aisha, was never someone who hesitated over something so simple. But the woman standing in front of me now, she wasn't the same. It's just herbs, Ami, she finally said, her voice composed, but thinner than before. You know I always make it for you. I held her gaze. Yes, I replied slowly, you do. And for the first time in 3 years, I didn't recognize her. I placed the cup back onto the table, untouched. A small action, but it changed everything. Because the moment I did, something shifted in the room. Aisha's shoulders stiffened. Her expression tightened. Not dramatically. Not in a way anyone else might notice, but I saw it. I felt it. She hadn't expected me to refuse. I'll drink it later, I added gently, as if nothing was wrong. A test, a simple one. If this was truly just tea, she would let it go. But if it wasn't... No, she said quickly. Too quickly. You should drink it now. It's most effective while it's warm. Effective. The word echoed in my mind. Effective. For what? I leaned back slightly, studying her. Aisha, I said, softer now, almost concerned. Why are you insisting? Another pause. Another crack in the calm surface she had built. I just care about your health, she replied. But this time, the words didn't land the same way. Because care doesn't feel like pressure. Care doesn't feel like control. Before I could respond, a voice broke through the tension. Bai is here. It was Syra. Standing near the entrance, her hands clasped tightly, her eyes briefly meeting mine. There it was again. That silent urgency. My son had arrived. The meeting was about to begin. Everything moved quickly after that. Too quickly. Aisha stepped back, smoothing her expression, adjusting her dupatta as if nothing had happened, as if the past few minutes hadn't just unraveled. Something deep beneath the surface. "Come, Ami," she said, her voice returning to that familiar softness. "We shouldn't keep him waiting." I stood up slowly. But before I followed her, I did something I hadn't planned, something I didn't even fully think through. I picked up the cup and carried it with me. The living room felt colder than usual. My son was already seated, papers spread neatly on the table in front of him. He looked up as I entered, his face lighting up briefly. "Ami," he said, standing. "Please sit." I nodded, forcing a small smile. Aisha took her place beside him. Close. Aligned. That was the first time I noticed it. Not just closeness, but coordination. The way they didn't need to look at each other to understand what the other was thinking. The way the silence between them felt, practiced. "What is all this?" I asked, glancing at the papers. "Just some planning," my son replied. "For the future. For the house." The house. Something in my chest tightened. He began explaining, calmly, logically, about restructuring ownership, about simplifying responsibilities, about ensuring everything runs smoothly in the years ahead. His words were careful, polished, but beneath them, there was something else, something unspoken. "And for that," he continued, sliding a document toward me, "we just need your signature." I didn't reach for it. Instead, I looked at the paper, then at him, then at Aisha. Her eyes weren't on me. They were on the cup in my hand. "You can go through it," my son added quickly. "But it's all standard. Nothing complicated. Nothing complicated." I almost smiled, because suddenly, everything felt very complicated. My fingers tightened around the cup again. The tea had cooled now. The steam was gone. But whatever was inside it, it hadn't changed. "Ami," Aisha said gently, "you should drink your tea." There it was again. That insistence, that quiet push. I looked at her. Really looked at her. And in that moment, something inside me finally settled. Not confusion, not doubt, but clarity. "You want me to drink this before I sign anything?" I asked. The room went still. "That's not what I said," she replied, but she didn't deny it either. I turned to my son. "Do you know what's in this tea?" He frowned slightly, glancing at Aisha. "It's just herbal tea, Ami. Why are you asking like this?" "Because I don't trust it." The words sat at the edge of my tongue, but I didn't say them. Not yet. Instead, I did something else. Something small, but irreversible. I stood up, walked past them, and held the cup out toward Syra. "Drink it," I said quietly. The reaction was instant. "No." Aisha's voice cut through the room, sharp, uncontrolled. Nothing like the calm tone she had maintained all day. Silence followed. Heavy, unforgiving. Syra froze, her eyes wide. My son stood up slowly, confusion written all over his face. "Aisha?" he said. "What?" But she didn't respond. Because she couldn't. I lowered the cup slightly, my gaze never leaving her. "Why not?" I asked softly. She opened her mouth, closed it, looked at my son, then back at me. And in that moment, everything we had built over the past 3 years cracked. "It's not for her," she finally said. Not for her. The words echoed in the room like something far louder than they should have been. "Then who is it for?" I asked. Even though I already knew the answer, her silence confirmed it. My son looked between us, his confusion slowly turning into something else. Something uneasy. "Aisha, what's going on?" But I didn't look at him. I couldn't, because my eyes were still fixed on her, on the woman I had trusted, the woman I had welcomed into my home, my life, my family. "You wanted me to drink it," I said quietly. Not a question, a truth. Tears filled her eyes, but they didn't fall. And somehow, that hurt more. Because I realized then, this wasn't a mistake. This wasn't confusion. This wasn't something accidental. This was planned. The tea, the meeting, the papers, the timing, all of it. My grip on the cup loosened slightly. Not out of weakness, but out of understanding. I didn't drink it, I said. Aisha's face changed. Not relief, not guilt, but something else entirely. Something that made my heart sink. Because instead of fear, I saw calculation. And that's when I understood the most terrifying part of all. This moment, this confrontation, it wasn't the end of her plan. It was only the part where I was supposed to realize. Too late. And as the truth settled into the room, I finally asked the one question that mattered. Aisha, my voice barely above a whisper, what were you hoping would happen after I drank it?